away. Only about 2 weeks away.
Good. Rest. Got 10 seconds and we got 10 more. 9, 8.
Go ahead.
My name is Aspen Ladd. My fight record is 9-1, and I am from Pioneer, California, but I now live in Pollock Pines. I was the oldest of 6 kids, and a lot of my life growing up was being with them and helping out with them. I lived in the mountains, and I was mostly a loner, pretty introverted kid. I had my dog, and we basically hiked all the time. Spent a lot of time out in the woods, spent a lot of time hiking with my grandpa and our dogs. And then when I was about 14 is when I found MMA.
11, 12-year-old girl wanting to go run 5 miles or 6 miles. Our first half marathon she did, she was 11 years old. We lived in the mountains where on the side of a hill, everything we did was terraced with rock, stone, concrete, whatever. She was the one right alongside of me, shoveling concrete, mixing our own concrete, doing all this stuff, whether it was hauling bricks down. But she just enjoyed being a part of it.
When I was younger, I did ballet for quite a while, and then I got into distance running as a young teenager. And it wasn't until I was a little bit older, 14, 15, that I found MMA. But I've always had something, and I've always been very obsessive as far as just people in general. So I've always channeled it in something, and it's usually been fitness oriented.
Very creative, very much into artistic nature type of things. She loves the outdoors. Loved to start hiking at the age of 7. She'd hike until she wore blisters on her feet with her grandfather.
Convince your parents, like, hey, I want to fight, or were they on board with it?
They didn't really realize exactly what it was, but I was blessed with a very supportive family. Big, supportive, great. So actually my grandpa, and you probably won't hear this one that often, he was probably the most supportive one, and really just believed in me and like, she's gonna do it, she's gonna do well. My dad and my brother at the time, they did it with me, so it's kind of like a family thing for the first few years. But I was blessed with a good family.
Started getting into MMA or mixed martial arts because her grandfather and I decided they needed something to do. So as a Christmas present one year, I said, we'll pay for 2 to 3 months. They got into it, and unfortunately, she absolutely loved it from the beginning. And I don't mean unfortunately in a bad way. It's just sometimes hard to see fighting going on.
I'm not exactly sure how she did it, but I know she set us up to go because I had been wanting to, and it just, she was, they were the catalyst for, we finally did it. We walked into an MMA gym, and I didn't know what MMA was, but I did know within the first week that I wanted to fight after I figured it out.
There was an MMA gym up by where we lived, and we decided to get a part of it. Like, we've never had kids in there. I don't think they can. It might not be to hang with the physicality part of it, the athleticism. I'm like, we got a pretty good chance, I think. So we got in there, and they took to it. Aspen was like, within 1 week, she's like, this is what I wanted to do.
We were, I think it was probably 2 years. Yeah, for 2 years we were at a small gym up in Sutter Creek, and we were basically the last people there at the time. And by chance, we started doing judo down at somewhere called Folsom MMA, but there was no MMA there at the time. Shortly after we showed up, and I think I've been doing judo for about 6 months. Mind you, it was very depressing because I'd been doing full MMA type things, so I only had one thing to focus on. But sometime around the time that we got there, Jim and his team ended up there from where they were before. And we started coming across each other. And I don't remember exactly how the conversation started, but one day we ended up working into his class and started transitioning into MMA.
Aspen had walked in with her younger brother, Trevor. Aspen was, I want to say, 17 at the time. And I didn't really even know who she was. She was taking judo at the gym. Sacramento Judo Club was training there. And the USA Judo Olympic team were doing their practices there. So she had gotten into judo for maybe about 6 months, and I kind of just noticed her in class, and she had some of those intangibles that you, if you've been coaching for a while, you kind of notice because it's not typical. She had some crazy tenacity, something that you just don't see every day. And I went to Dave Hirschbein, who wasn't at the time, wasn't her manager, but he was managing some of our fighters that were in the gym. And I mentioned, I was like, hey man, you got to check out this girl over there. There's, you don't see this type of athlete come into a gym, every day. I think she's going to be special. And he watched her a little bit, and we watched her for a little bit longer, a couple more months, and finally I went up to her and I was like, hey, do you want to come into class and to do some grappling, do some jiu-jitsu and spar a little bit? And the rest is history, man. I mean, she the first day she sparred, I remember one of our fighters at the time, Dylan Moore, close friend of mine, had been training with me since he was like 14 years old, and he absolutely splattered Aspen's nose all over the place. And I watched to see how she reacted, and I mean, it was destroyed. And she walked off the mat, went into the bathroom, cleaned herself up, and she was right back on the mat a minute later. And that just proved to me that I was like, that's a different breed, a different toughness, a different tenacity. And we got her first fight when she was 18, and it just snowballed from there.
Oh boy, for I think almost 4 years, my sole goal was, I'm going to turn 18, I'm going to fight, turn 18, I'm going to fight. So I knew the second that I turned 18 that I was going to fight, I was going to do the best I could, so 2 weeks after. But I was ready at that point. I've been training for over 3 years. And I was a baby fighter, but I was as prepared as a baby fighter can get.
So now we climb, all we do is climb.
The amateur fight, were you nervous going out for that first fight?
Nervous and excited.
Till the day we die.
Very, very excited because it'd been a huge build-up for like over 3 years.